Thanks, Rod. So I'm John Hart. I'm the co-founder of the Conservative Coalition for Climate Solutions. And we chose to put the words conservative and climate together because we want to win the next generation. And it's a little countercultural still on the right to grab the issue of climate so aggressively. But we're convinced that we have an opportunity as a movement to completely change the narrative and to capture a generation that has been grossly misled and deceived by top-down left-wing authoritarian ideas. And we're seeing this play out right now in real time in Ukraine in a very tragic way. So our organization really is a strategy that I call a three-legged stool of coalitions, communications, and policy. And I'm going to put my colleague Nick Lorris on the spot in a minute to talk about the policy side. But on the communication, to underscore the narrative, how vital that is, we've created our own news magazine. We have a publication that exists that Chris writes for it a lot with ACC. A lot of people in this room have contributed to tell the story. A lot has changed about digital media, but what hasn't changed is that stories are still Trojan horses for true ideas. If we can tell a good story and have it be grounded in good policy, communicate that we care, to your point, Magat, we can begin to change the debate. So I'm going to ask Nick maybe to talk about the free economies work.
Thanks, John. So Nick Lorris, Vice President of Public Policy with C3 Solutions. Our kind of seminal foundational report was called Free Economies or Clean Economies. And all of the principles that we care about, rule of law, private property rights, regulatory efficiency, also happen to be critically important for the environment. And so this study just did a very simple correlation of the Heritage Foundation's Index of Economic Freedom and Yale's Environmental Performance Index, looked at a bunch of different correlations for these metrics, found a positive correlation, unsurprisingly, because it's wealth that helps people take care of the environment. And I think that is one thing that Magat touched on in the earlier session today, is that right now, the left's strategy on climate is degrowthism and trying to keep people trapped in poverty. The true path forward is decoupling emissions, not degrowthism. It's to allow people to increase their levels of wealth and prosperity so they have the means to take care of the environment. It helps them bend the pollution curve backwards. As they gain more income, they gain more resources to care for the environment, not just to take care of CO2 emissions, but for clean air, for clean drinking water, for all the other traditional environmental pollutants that still plague large parts of our planet, including the United States. And so I think this is the message and the path forward. And there's a number of different policies in which we can continue to increase wealth in the United States, around the world, to turn green premiums into green advantages where cost reductions come down. And it is in the economic interest of developing countries to pursue cleaner technologies, because that's the real end game if you care about climate change. Because the reality is that over 90% of future emissions growth is going to come from developing countries, and rightly so, because they want to grow and prosper. And so the more you can turn those green premiums into green advantages, that's ultimately what's going to allow people to grow, to prosper, to gain levels of wealth, to actually care for their environment. And that's if you care about reducing global greenhouse gas emissions, if you care about increasing resiliency and helping countries adapt to climate change, that's the ultimate path forward. So happy to be part of the discussion and look forward to working with y'all.